Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I, on behalf of the Naga Scholars Association, take this wonderful opportunity to welcome each and every one of you gathered here to a special talk on media and professionalism in the 21st century. And today we are extremely privileged to have Mr. Bhuvendra Choubey in our midst, who will be delivering the topic which I just mentioned. And well, before we, let me just give a brief introduction about our speaker today. Mr. Bhuvendra Choubey, of course he needs no introduction, everyone knows him, but let me give a brief introduction about him. He's an executive editor of CNN News 18, host of India's most watched daily news show called The Viewpoint. He has covered 5 general elections and multiple rounds of assembly rules across the entire country. And he was one of the few who had accurately predicted the outcome of the Lok Sabha 2019 elections. He has been a TV journalist for the past 12 years, starting his career with NDTV, and as a political journalist traveling across the length and breadth of the country. He has the unique ability to understand things at a micro level and then present it on a macro level. He is India's most trusted political journalist on news television and one of the finest political journalists we have today. He did his graduation in mathematics and was graduated in film. He has also won several national and international awards for his works. Hence today, he brings himself almost 2 decades of journalistic excellence. We are very thankful to him for accepting our invitation to come and give a special talk on a topic, media and professionalism in the 21st century. I know he's a very busy man. He comes on every day. His program is at 9 to 10. You can watch him every day at 9 to 10 p.m. Well, as a token of love and appreciation, NSA would like to give you a small present. And I would like to request one of our executive members to kindly come forward and do the presentation.
Actually, wear this on a daily basis on my show. Next time you get
Okay. And well, being a journalist is like going to a warfare every day, right? And well, so in order to help you stay secure, protected, fighting for justice, we have another small gift for you, the Naga, which signifies power, righteousness, protection.
How nice.
Authority.
Yeah, I need this actually.
Correct. Action and justice. So we request you to, I think always supposed to hand over that. We request for always.
Thank you. We just let you be quiet.
Maybe we can wrap it. Okay, well.
Any more surprises?
We are also extremely privileged to have Dr. Susmita Dasgupta, who will be chairing today's session. He needs no introduction because he has been a part of NSA, has been taking part in many of our activities. But anyway, for the benefit of some of you who may not know her, let me just give a quick introduction about Dr. Susmita Dasgupta. Well, Dr. Susmita Dasgupta is a chief economist at Joint Plant Commission, Ministry of Steel. And she's an author of several books of international review. And she's not only an economist, but a sociologist and a social activist, and visiting faculty in many leading universities in the country. And she is also the author of the famous book, The Making of a Superstar on Anirudh Channel. So, thank you very much for being always available to NSA. In fact, Dr. Susmita Dasgupta, She has visited Nagaland with us, and so she knows more about the Nagas than many of us maybe now. She has read many books on the Nagas. Well, as a token of our love and appreciation, we also have a small gift for Dr. Susmita Dasgupta. I would like to request one of our executive members to kindly come forward. We are giving you this basket to let you continue to carry us in your heart.
I did a big plastic and you also this will be very good.
Yeah. So, once again, I would like to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for setting your time, busy schedule, and coming and showing us your kind presence here. So, without wasting much time, now I would like to give the rest of the time to our chairperson, Dr. Susmita Dasgupta.
I think that I'll speak after Bhupendra Chaudhary has spoken to us because then that would make things more interesting. So I'll just hand over the mic to our speaker.
I'll use this in maybe.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sushmita ji, and thank you so much. Let me firstly, right from the bottom of my heart, thank Yanthan and all the fellow members of the Naga Scholars Association for being so nice and hospitable and warm towards me. So many thanks. I shall carry nothing else but love and warmth from all of you. Yanthan was very kind, and I wish that he had told me that this talk could have been followed by a nice dinner as well. But I didn't know earlier that there could be the possibility of a dinner. But next time I'll certainly ensure that I'll keep my evening free for the rest of the evening. It so happens that I have met Yanthan, I think, just over the last few weeks, and one of my relatives who happens to be a professor at Indira Gandhi Open University was keen that I come there and I address their faculty members purely from the realm of political power play in India right now. So I did go there, and I think I ended up ruffling quite a few feathers through my talk there and my interaction. But let me just set the ground rules very clear. I have my own views on what's happening in the country, and I have my own views on what's happening to the world of media. I'm neither an apologist nor am I a supporter. I don't know how many of you actually watch what we do on TV. Most people don't watch news TV. And if you don't watch news TV, I again compliment you. I think you're doing a good thing. So it means that you have something more constructive to do in your life. Because the truth is this, and I say this with a heavy heart, the truth is that the media dynamics in India, the media power play in India, I would be outrightly lying if I was to say that the media power play, the media dynamics in India are absolutely hail and hearty and absolutely safe and sound. I think it's an open secret. I don't have to say this. I can well take some credit, some pride for what I myself do, but I happen to be a part of an industry and I happen to be a part of a setup. So if there's something wrong with my setup, well, I think that I'm equally responsible for that. So I make no defense about that, and I accept it very openly. Let me begin today by actually narrating a small anecdote with you, and it will help you understand why I chose the subject media and professionals in the 21st century. So I happen to live in Noida, and my studio is also in Noida. My wife and I have had many friends over the years between the student fraternity and the teaching fraternity here in JNU. But for the first time when I was coming here today, my wife told me that please be careful where you're going. So I said that, we're going to university campus, what's the big deal? She said, no, we're going to Jawaharlal Nehru University. So I said, yeah, I'm not in the war zone. So she said, no, but you be careful of what you say. Because what you will say will be used by, say, elements. I'm not saying the Naga Scholars Federation here, but by elements of the university to try and trigger some kind of a political turmoil, and you'll get into trouble. So please be careful of what you say. But that statement, and my wife, both of us take great pride in our secular and liberal approach to life and in our values. But it did tell me that we are living in an environment and an ecosystem where just everything has changed. And when I say changed, has it changed for the better? I don't think so. I think what is happening is that whether it's commercial interests, whether it's just the way we've become as a society, as people, I just think that when I started off my career some 2 decades back, way back in 1999, I used to do Delhi TV, and India I think was not what it is today. Our GDP was not growing at what it is growing today. The size of our economy was not what it is today. And there weren't so many news channels. At that time, I think we all had the ability, or should I say we had the acceptance from society to actually operate in an area of grey. The fundamental shift that has happened today is that ability of a society as a collective to move in an area of grey, where not everything is right, not everything is wrong, maybe some of it is right and some of it is wrong, for you to be able to critically analyze and for you to constantly take these positions, I think we've lost that right. And somewhere, I say it very openly and candidly, of course media has had a role to play. But whether media has led the political ecosystem or has the political ecosystem led the media, I think that debate can carry on for as long as we want. The strength of a democracy, I would say, is if we could really respect the dissenting viewpoint. I try and do that on my program. I mean, just imagine the times that we're living in, where for the better part, I think of the last 4 to 5 years, for the better part of the last 4 to 5 years, 2 of the most prominent mainstream English news channels and a couple of mainstream Hindi news channels were actually boycotted by almost 28 of the mainstream national opposition political parties. Now, if you have that kind of a scenario where you are just not giving any representation to the opposition, then what kind of news setup are we talking about? I have a lot of friends in Nagaland, in Arunachal, in Guwahati, and the constant complaint that I always find is this: that what we often describe as national media is just straightforward Noida media, or IDO media. The leading newspapers are published from a certain territory within Delhi. The leading news channels are broadcast from a certain territory in the national capital region. And that we just don't understand the sensibilities, the sensitivities which are associated, say, with the northeastern states. I mean, we can all, during the election, we all say, oh, it's a great land of 7 sisters and rivers and languages and multi-ethnicity and multi-languages and whatnot. But the truth is, even if I had to ask myself, and it's one of my biggest regrets, and I shared with Yantan last time, I don't think that this divide which exists, and I'm specifically responsibly using this word divide, because between the north of India and say the northeastern parts of India, I think enough is just not known within the so-called mainstream journalistic community about what is it that's really agitating the minds of our friends, of our brothers and sisters, our well-wishers in the northeastern parts of the country. I'm sure the political realities of Nagaland or Arunachal or Assam are vastly different. But how do we really communicate with people across these states? We communicate only through their political representatives. When Tarun Gogoi was the chief minister of Assam, he would come here. When Kiran Rijiju was on the opposition side, he would often come here, and we would position them as leaders of the Northeast. But I think it's a great injustice to call someone who's a chief minister of Assam or someone who's a chief minister of Arunachal or Nagaland or whatever, and call them you're the representative of the Northeast. I think it's completely unfair, and it just shows a total lack. It just shows a total lack of understanding of what is it that really needs to be done to somehow bridge this divide. Now, we could have had that understanding, we could have come to a conclusion in terms of how to bridge this divide if we were operating in the world of grey. Because we're not operating in the world of grey. When is it that stories of Nagaland or Yantan told me about the Hornbill festival, which I'm quite keen to go and see. And I did go back and I googled and I spoke to a few people and I was absolutely amazed. I mean, what a rich melting pot. You know, I was told that you built a certain village there. That when the festival is organized, there is a new village which comes up and people from across the state are then asked to come there and the full cultural magnificence, the sheer splendid approach of what Datta culture would be all about is there before this day. But when have I heard about it or have I seen about it, anywhere in the mainstream press? I'm afraid not. So who stands to lose? All of us stand to lose. You stand to lose, I stand to lose. And if both of us stand to lose, then the country stands to lose. So I think what is of paramount importance is for platforms like these, for collectives like these, firstly to understand some basic ground rules that have changed. And those changes are other than what I spoke about, that we are not now in this area of grey. Somewhere along the line, I think that we have to understand that we've changed. I think what is happening, and I say this on all public platforms, is that there is this great romanticism with the past. That the past was so good. In the past we could do this. In the past JNU was this great place, and you could go to Ganga Dhaba and you could go here and there and you could meet friends. Well, today in public perceptions, I'm not saying that's a reality. In public perception, maybe that reality has changed. It's a perceptual reality, right? But as the famous adage goes, perception is a new reality. Now you and I can keep arguing that this is propaganda, this is all wrong, but I'm saying that has changed. Perceptually, the battle has changed. You cannot win this battle, whether it's about your state, or about your region, or about your ecosystem, your university, unless firstly you accept that there is something which has changed. If you stay in the past, if you only take this position that in the past everything was good and in the present everything is bad, well, I'm saying this clearly that yes, I'm saying there are a lot of things which are bad, but we can come together and I think that we can, maybe take some steps in terms of correcting some of the wrongs which exist today. And I think that platforms like the Nala Scholars Association, and I'm sure there must be many similar organizations. The other day I was at this collective called the Young Presidents Organization. It's called the YPO. So the YPO consists of some of the most successful entrepreneurs of India. And they have, so there is a basic requirement that you must be under a certain age group, you can't be over 40, and you must have an annual turnover of whatever you're doing. So you must have an annual turnover of roughly whatever 1,000 crores or 2,000 crores of that. So let's call them the rich fat boys club. So everybody is like right up there as far as their capital status is concerned. But I kid you not, when I started talking to them, and we were talking about politics and they wanted to hear my thoughts about what was going on, I kid you not, their concerns were exactly the same as the concerns of any other citizen. That we are worried, we're scared, we are being raided, and what is the new economic step which the government can take? How is it that we can benefit? How is it that we cannot benefit? So somewhere I think what is happening is that as far as the concerns is concerned, as far as the worries are concerned, I think across the country we may disagree, we may be polarized in terms of our regional or religious identities. But when it comes to our basic economic concerns, our basic concern of just having the outright liberty just to speak or live the way we want to, I think somewhere there is, I'm witnessing the emergence of some kind of a common cause there. So you could be in the northern part of India, you could be in the eastern part of India, you could be in the western part of India, or any other part of India, the concern appears to be the same. I am looking at that as a good starting point for maybe a constructive discourse to happen in our country. Otherwise, what we're seeing in India today is nothing else but I think a charade which is being played out between some people who may have nothing to do with what the India story is all about, and because of commercial reasons or political reasons, the media appears to be completely trapped in this. So media is a favorite whipping boy, I agree. But you will not go anywhere if you only treat the media as a whipping boy. So you need to figure out how you can engage with us in a more constructive manner. You need to be open, and of course we also need to be. And I'm using this example of the Hornbill, festival as a great example. That I've just gotten to know of this through you. If I did not know of you, well, I may not have made the attempt. And it's funny, my daughter who goes to one of the convent schools in Delhi, her best friend is someone who's a young Nagaland. And I'm forgetting the name of the person who contested as independent against the chief minister last time.
Okay.
And he's now joined the NPP. Yeah, anyway, he's now just joined the NPP. One of the members. Yeah. So his wife is also a former journalist. So I told her, year in mind. So I told her, I said, I met Yanthan and I'm going there, so she's very happy, but unfortunately they've gone back now to Nagaland. But I'm seeing that because my daughter, who's all of 11 years old, because she got in touch, and one of her friends happens to be from Nagaland, so now she's making an attempt to figure out, where is Nagaland, what is it about Nagaland, and somebody told her, and I thought it was a great tribute to people from Nagaland. They said that Nagaland is this great place where everyone is very stylish and everyone speaks very well and everyone is just having a good time. That's a great state. That's a great identity. But I think somewhere that's what happens when you open up the discourse. I think our fundamental challenge before 21st century India, before media, before groups like yours, is how do we create more such platforms of an open discourse. Political parties will do what they will do. The religious identity of India is being reaffirmed, is being reinstated, is being redefined, repositioned, and it will happen, irrespective of what you and I may say. The Jawaharlal Nehru University will be used as a whipping boy by some elements. It will happen. It doesn't mean that you lose track of the main task in hand. I mean, all kinds of things have been said about JNU, but as you said, Sushmita ji, that the truth is that when the survey was done of top universities in India, I think JNU was amongst the top 2, if not the very best. So one can keep leveling all kinds of allegations, and we can keep getting ourselves down in this conversation between who's a nationalist and who's not. I think that doesn't take us anywhere. I think the biggest disservice, according to me, which has been done in India, I think, over the last few years, is that we have all just got ourselves completely consumed and subsumed with this thought of who's an ideal nationalist, who's an anti-national, who's an Indian, who's not an Indian. Well, we were all born in this country. We are all Indian citizens. You have the right, as much as I do, to, lead our lives the way we want to lead our lives. Is the media fanning this flame of further reinstatement of religious national identities, or is the political class creating an ecosystem where this debate has got justified? It has got legitimized. Earlier it may not have been legitimized, but today maybe it has been legitimized. And maybe it has become a part and parcel of the kind of comments which we sometimes see on public platforms. So my earnest request to all of you is to think of, look at this as a challenge, look at this as an opportunity, but you and I will not get anywhere if we simply come to a consensus, if we conclude that it's all the media's fault. The media is a puppet in the hands of political parties, or the media is a puppet in the hands of some corporate players or whatever. It is not going to help the cause, because media's identity is what it is. The political class's identity is what it is. Only thing which can change discourse is if we create these open platforms where we try and bring in more information in public domain. Media is just television and newspapers, at least that is what we used to think. But today that's not the case. There are social media platforms. If there is information, that information will find its way. Whether it's Kashmir, just recently there was this example of the National Citizens Registrar, for instance, which is now in big play in Guwahati and in Assam and in other parts of the northeastern parts of the country. Suddenly there was some story which came out that there is something new that is happening, and there is curfew which is being imposed in parts of Assam, and there is some new policy which is being implemented, and then we found out that actually that was not the case. That was just a rumor. But that rumor led to a whole political discourse for 2-3 days. That is what I'm trying to explain to you guys, that please appreciate, you will not go anywhere, you will not get anything, and I will not get anything, or people like me will not get anything, if we continue to engage with each other as adversaries. The way to change discourse is if you and I both think of each other as tools to bring in greater information in the ecosystem. Maybe I'm willing to accept that media is failing even in that basic responsibility to constantly bring in new facts, constantly bring in new information. But you guys are citizens. If you see something, if you hear something from whichever state, whichever territory you all come from, well, there are enough platforms. You know, if I show you my phone, between my Twitter, my Facebook, my LinkedIn, it's unbelievable how much information you can get if you really want. But you can get that information only and only if citizens like yourselves, I think, are willing to have an open and an unbiased agenda towards it. So with that, I throw the floor open to Sushmita ji. I think I've been as candid as I could have been, but I'd be more than happy to take any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you so much for a fantastic, engaging talk. Actually, when I was researching on Bhupendra Chaubey, I saw that he was actually a mathematician. You know, what we graduate, that subject is very important. So I think mathematics has a great deal of objectivity. And of course his recent YouTube, you know, on a series of interviews with Bollywood stars, I think those were some of the most fantastic, because in my opinion, Bollywood stars, politicians have the highest IQ in India, and next is the Bollywood stars. The lowest are the academicians. We are the most foolish people. You see, one of the things I always feel about the media is, of course, the media does perform very well in some instances and does fail in many, many more. One thing, it is very important, you know, beyond the university system, the media is actually an out of the university boundary university for most people. Media is a learning tool. You know, in the newspaper it was said like that. I see all my relatives learning by the media. So media people are also teachers very much as we are in a way. That is where the responsibility of the media works. One thing, coming back to the Hornbill. The Hornbill is an interesting festival also for another thing. This I learned from Father Abraham, Nagaland. You see, Nagas are migratory people.
Right.
So they are united on stories of origin. The Hornbill is the bird that is, wherever it is found, they say it is the Naga people.
Absolutely.
So it can step to Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, and that's a call of all the migratory people to come together.
How nice. I mean, just imagine, you know, so this Delhi, which is half a state, it's a unit territory, you do something in Mehrauli and Qutub Minar, just see how, you know, it will played up as if, oh my God, this is the biggest festival. But here you're doing something for a whole week. You're setting up a mini township, mini city. And look at the description that she's giving. I mean, it's got me hooked on, and I promise you that I'm certainly going to be there because I want to witness this firsthand.
So once we see the Hornbill, from the point of view of the NRC, you see, then suddenly, in the minds of Indians, Indian subcontinent as an EU becomes a very veritable and a peaceful situation. You know? So I think that certain kinds of discourses, and why should Kashmir not have autonomy? I mean, I have no idea why it should not be. Why Darjeeling cannot be a separate district? I have no idea. I mean, separate entity altogether. I have no idea. That is number one. The number two thing which I feel about the media is that, okay, we have warring positions in the society now. Fine, I agree. Romila Thapar is fantastic and she's impeccable, extremely revered. But why did Chintamani Mahapatra say that she writes stories? You know, when Chintamani says this, whole of JNU, all of you laugh at him. I don't. You know why I don't? I think that if he has seen something, he must have seen something from some perspective. As a sociologist, my training from JNU, Marxist training from JNU, I always think that, you know, if somebody is saying something which may occur as a lie to me, but there must be a context under which that statement is true. Find out that context. That's why I never laugh at children. Whenever they make fantastic stories, I never laugh at them because they have a context under which that story is true. I think that for all people pursuing academics or the truth, like the media, film people, you know, anybody who's pursuing the truth, even the WhatsApp fellows, the Facebook writers, I think this is one humility we must always pursue. if there is somebody says that something is happening, some aeroplane was there during Gupta's age, if something, he may be making a mistake, but there is something which that person is seeing. Even if it is absurd, trying to find out what the structure of the mind is. And once we find the structure of the mind, we will be kinder to that person, and maybe that person is trying to tell me something. Most of the times they are trying, the right way is trying to tell me, look, I want to come to your club, you give me a cup of tea. It is actually that. So if I'm kinder, I think the conflict will be reduced. And now it is not important for any one of us to win. Much less is the need for people like us who are already in positions of power to win. We don't need to win, we are victorious people. Let us first concede some space. I think that learning is a very important learning. I think the media can convince people.
I'm completely with you, which is why I made this point very clear today that nobody gains anything by being adversarial. If you accuse the media of not discharging responsibilities fully, well, maybe we're doing 50%, 60%, maybe lower. The media will turn around and say that the entire discourse was being managed by some people. To give you an example, I'm looking at Khan market. I mean, my God, the amount of time which is spent in India talking about some so-called Khan market kebab. What is this Khan market kebab? I go to Khan market, it's a nice place, well, good cafes, restaurants, whatever. So is Connaught Place. Why do we talk about Connaught Place kebab? Why do we talk about Saket kebab? Why is it only and only Khan market kebab? Because the same people who go to the so-called, or who may be a part of the so-called Khan market kebab, are people who will also go to Saket, are people who may go to Vasantpur Mall, or may go to Connaught Place Mall. The reason is exactly what, and I'm glad that you're sort of supplementing that argument, is because we are simply unwilling to move beyond our stated positions. Victorious. You say that you are victorious, it's great. I'm saying, can we take maybe a step further and can we stop looking at ourselves as victors or vanquished? Because as long as you will remain victorious, I will feel that I was vanquished earlier. So now is my time. In 2000, during these Lok Sabha elections, you know what happens? The funny thing. And next time if you happen to be writing, you should do this. At 8 p.m. in the evening, suddenly I get a call from some people within the political system who know me. Says, boss, you please send your camera to Khan market. There were people who had got t-shirts printed. People who were, say, from the BJP or RSS or whatever, t-shirts printed the new Khan market ecosystem, and they were all hanging up. Now, what kind of a statement is an individual trying to make? If walking through a market, walking through a restaurant becomes a sign of victory, I mean, nothing could be more ridiculous and absurd than that. But when I asked them, I said, why are you doing this? He said, no, it is meant to give a message to these people that you thought that this bit belonged to you, now see. Now this is what used to happen in the old kings and queens time, no, that I will take your territory away. Now, whose territory is being taken? I don't know whose territory is being taken. The territory which is being taken is of you, the citizen. The territory which is being taken is of a discourse which is based on facts, which is not based on this perception of who's a victor and who's a vanquished.
We can have some questions.
Yeah.
Please, the floor is open for questions.
I was only responding.